Hello students, hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another video by QuickStudy. Today we will start another topic of IGCSE English Language B, and we are starting section B, which is the writing part. So our topic for today is how we compare texts. So in section B of English Language B, we basically analyze the writings of different authors and write according to that. So to compare texts, we mainly have to keep 5 things in mind, which are the content and ideas. We have to identify the main theme, subjects and ideas presented in both texts. Consider what each text is about and what message or story it conveys. Number 2 would be language and style. We have to examine the language used by the authors. Look for the literary devices, for example, metaphor, similes, or personification, sentence structure and tone. Notice how the choice of words impacts the reader's understanding and emotional response. Number 3 would be structure and form. We have to analyze the structure of the text. This includes the organization of paragraphs, the use of dialogue or narration, and the overall format. For example, extract from a book versus magazine articles. Consider how structure affects the flow and effectiveness of each text. If you have watched our previous videos, you already know about all of these. So number 4 would be purpose and audience. We have to determine the purpose of each text to inform, entertain, or to persuade. We have to identify which one of these the story conveys. And the intended audience. We have to consider how the purpose and audience influences the content and the style of writing. Number 5 would be personal response. We have to understand how this affects the reader personally. We have to think about how each text makes us feel and why does it make us feel that way. We have to consider how our background and experiences may influence the interpretation of the writing. This interpretation may vary from each person to person. By comparing these elements, we can develop a comprehensive understanding of similarities and differences between the texts. So let's compare two texts and see how we write the similarities and differences between them. So here in extract 1, the experience, I fell out of sky. I pulled the brake lines to increase the angle of the wing for extra lift, but I forgot that I had tightened them before takeoff and made them far more sensitive. I pulled too hard. That combined with the eddies swirling from the trees and building ahead, caused a break in the airflow under the canopy. Instantly, it began to deflate. I just had enough time to look up and see the thin material of my wing falling towards me, like an enormous bunch of useless laundry. I was dropping like a stone. Tumbling through the air with no way to stop is a sensation of utter helplessness, a truly stomach-crunching moment where you know you're not going forwards or upwards. You're just falling. There is no time to think. 1 second became two, two became three. I closed my eyes. Voila. This is from the magazine article, The Guardian Weekend 2014. Let's get into extract 2. In extract 2, skydiver survives 14,000-foot fall after his parachute and backup both fail. A thrill seeker survived a 14,000-foot fall when both his parachute and the emergency backup failed to deploy during skydive in Melbourne, Australia. Brad Guy was doing a tandem skydive strapped to an instructor when he plummeted towards the ground as his family watched helpless in a nearby field. After making the jump, which was a gift for his 21st birthday, Brad felt the main parachute deploy as they passed 4,000 feet. But shortly after he heard his instructor begin to swear, the parachute had torn as it opened, causing the pair to spin wildly as they fell. Recognizing something was wrong, Brad asking his instructor, "Are we going to die?" The only response his instructor, a veteran of 2,000 tandem jumps, could give was, "I don't know." The backup parachute deployed at about 500 feet, but tangled with the remains of the main parachute as they continued to spiral downward. Guy told local newspaper the Herald Sun, "Survival wasn't in my head at all. I was thinking, this ground's going to hit me, and when it does, I'll be gone. I have brought my family here to watch me die." Brad's mom, Julie, dad Brian, boyfriend Artie, and his 3 sisters and their families all watched in horror as the nightmare unfolded. news report from the Mirror, Milky Smith. So let's look at the similarities between these two texts. So, at first, the purpose. Both are informing and entertaining the reader. They're both about a similar topic, which is an airborne accident. Both use a specialist semantic field. The Guardian article refers to brake lines, takeoff, and canopy, while the Mirror report uses deploy and tandem skyline. Both uses dramatic, emotive language to excite the reader. The Mirror report uses dramatic choices like thrill seeker, plummeted, horror, nightmare, whilst the Guardian article uses phrases like utter helplessness and stomach churning. Both structure the last paragraph in the extract with dramatic phase, in the news report as the nightmare unfolded, and in the article wallop. Both texts are written in the past tense, and the readers know from the headline that the man survived. So initially we can see the differences. The first difference would be obviously the extract 1 is a magazine article and the extract 2 is an online news report. The Mirror report is describing details of the accident after the event, so the reader is presented with emotions on the onlookers. His family watched helpless, all watched in horror. This emphasis on the man's family watching makes the incident more dramatic for the reader. The paramotoring article is written in the form of perspective of the man involved in the accident, so the reader is presented with his emotions. The focus on his experience of this dramatic event. The multi-clause sentences in the Mirror report builds a sense of anticipation as the details of the dramatic event unfold. In the paramotoring article, lots of single clause short sentences build the tension. The informality of the word wallop in the paramotoring article is shocking and also perhaps creates an amusing tone for the reader. The humor is also suggested by the simile, like an enormous bunch of useless laundry. The contrast of this humor with the serious subject matter makes the text very effective. Basically, the writer wanted to make it more funny as if uh, he is falling from the sky like a useless laundry. The tone in the Mirror report is more factual. 14,000 foot fall, 20,000 tandem jumps. The use of a lot of statistics gives the report a more informative feel. The paramotoring article is more descriptive and uses simple, effective images. I was dropping like a stone. This simile gives a vivid, dramatic sense of the man's experience. The Mirror report uses first person interviews. Survival wasn't in my head at all, to make the storyline more dramatic. So these were some examples, but now let's look at some real examples which have already appeared in our IGCSE exams and also learn how to write in the exam paper properly. Sample exam question and answer. We have to compare how the writer of the text 1 and text 2 present their perspective and ideas about a life as a writer. We have to support our answer with detailed reference to the text. Text 1 here is an extract from the Diaries of John Steinbeck. Lincoln's birthday, my first day of work in my new room. It is a very pleasant room and I have a drafting table to work on, which I have always wanted. Also a comfortable chair given to me by Elaine, his wife. In fact, I have never had it so good and so comfortable. I have known such things to happen. The perfect pointed pencil, the paper persuasive, the fantastic chair and good light, and no writing. Surely a man is a most treacherous animal full of his treasured contradictions. He may not admit it, but he loves his paradoxes. Now that I have everything, we shall see whether I have anything. It is exactly that simple. Mark Twain used to write in bed. So did our greatest poet. But I wonder how often they wrote in bed, or whether they did it twice and the storybook hold. Such things won't happen. Also, I would like to know what things they wrote in bed and what things they wrote sitting up. All of these things has to do with comfort in writing and what its value is. I should think that a comfortable body would let the mind go freely to its gathering. But such is the human, that he might react in an opposite way. Remember my father's story about the man who did not dare be comfortable because he went to sleep. That might be true of me too. Now I am perfectly comfortable in body. I think my house is in order. Elaine, my beloved, is taking care of all the outside details to allow me the amount of free, untroubled time every day to do my work. I can't think of anything else necessary to a writer except a story and the ability to tell it. John Steinbeck. So let's look at the text 2. Text 2 here is an extract from Stephen King's advice book and memoir. On writing, he is talking about his writing desk. The last thing I want to tell you in this part is about my desk. For years, I dreamt of having the sort of massive oak slab that would dominate a room. No more child's desk in a trailer laundry closet. No more cramped knee hole in a rented house. In 1981, I got the one I wanted and placed it in the middle of spacious, skylighted study. It's a converted stable loft at the rear of the house. For 6 years, I sat behind that desk, either drunk or wrecked out of my mind, like a ship's captain in charge of a voyage to nowhere. A year or two after I sobered up, I got rid of the monstrosity and put in a living room suit where it had been, picking out the pieces and a nice Turkish rug with my wife's help. In the early 90s, before they moved on to their own lives, my kids sometimes came up in the evening to watch a basketball game or a movie and eat pizza. They usually left a box full of crusts behind when they moved on, but I didn't care. They came, they seemed to enjoy being with me, and I know I enjoyed being with them. I got another desk. It's handmade, beautiful, and half the size of the T-Rex size desk. I put it at the far west end of the office in a corner under the eave. That eave is very like the one I slept under in Durham, but there are no rats in the walls and no senile grandmother downstairs yelling for someone to feed the horse. I'm sitting under it now, a 53-year-old man with bad eyes, gimp leg, and no hangover. I'm doing what I know how to do, and as well as I know how to do it. I came through all the stuff and I told you about, and plenty more that I didn't. And now I'm going to tell you as much as I can about the job. As promised, it won't take long. It starts with this: put your desk in the corner, and every time you sit down there to write, remind yourself why isn't it in the middle of the room? Life isn't a support system for art. It's the other way around. Stephen King. Now let's see how the students should write the similarities and the differences in their exam paper. They should not separate it with two paragraphs or anything. They should write the similarities and differences together in one paragraph or two. So, while reading this text, you would find that the perspective of the text, both texts are first person narratives. Steinbeck writes in a diary form, while King combines memoir and advice directly addressing the reader. However, the structure. Steinbeck's writing is fragmented and stream of consciousness using single clause sentences and dashes. King uses time connectives to show changes in his writing approach. Common element would be the desk. King emphasizes the desk importance with a massive oak slab and the metaphor T-Rex desk to convey its dominance and danger. Steinbeck mentions a simple drafting table with the chair being more significant, focusing on the act of writing. Paradox of having everything. Steinbeck highlights the paradox of having ideal writing conditions but not being able to write. King similarly describes having a perfect desk but not being unproductive, using a journey metaphor to illustrate this. Both writers explored the challenges of translating the ideal circumstances into productive writing. That's all for today, students. So I hope now we can compare texts and analyze the author's writing properly and write in our exam papers the similarities and differences between them. Stay with us to learn more about English Language B and other courses as we post regularly on our channel. To learn more about our online tutoring service, do visit www.quickstudy.uk.